All right. I have to give him a hard time. Christian is pinging me, telling me he's apologizing for not going to make it.
Oh,
Time I'll
shoot.
give him this time. Okay. I was trying to, I don't think I'm seeing any chat out here. Just trying to make sure. Hi, Jesse. Welcome.
Hello.
Mark, would you like me to get started while we wait for others to join?
Yeah, I think so. I'm not seeing any. Got on the phone, or I don't see anybody pinging me. They're having difficulties. So let's start. Thanks, Liz.
Do you want to kick it off?
Let me, well, first of all, let me welcome everybody here to our first meeting here online. For those of you, I don't recognize some of your names, but we try to do online and in-person meetings. We rotate them. This month says online, but I'll talk here more at the end. We're going to have our first in-person meeting here at the end of February. But obviously you found Doug, and we appreciate today that Liz has joined us from the Doug community to talk a little more and kick off the meeting about what's happening with Doug in general. Liz, I'll turn it over to you.
Sounds wonderful. Thank you so much, Mark. And yes, welcome everybody to the first Indiana F&O event of the year. Just wanted to quickly touch base and review in case those of you may not be familiar with the Doug community, Doug standing for Dynamics User Group. We are a free community. We welcome anybody that does anything with the Microsoft Dynamics 365, Dynamics GP, as well as the Power Platform products. We are a community that has an individual free membership, and we are growing feverishly. We've got over 45,000 members worldwide. And as we kick off today's event, I just want to have a quick reminder that we ask that everybody just is here to participate. We are all here to learn and network with each other, be courteous to each other. This is not a place for us to be selling your services or your products, but rather a place to educate each other, network with each other. And so if you have any questions or concerns about that, certainly let Mark or myself know. Dynamics User Group, in addition to hosting Doug Meetup events like this, we do offer several other programs, and many of which are free for you, including an online discussion forum. We offer webinars. Our YouTube channel has a bunch of recordings from prior sessions. And so this Doug Meetup is being recorded, and we will share that out on our YouTube channel too. So I can drop a link to in the chat for those that would like to subscribe and get notified. We are also the host of the DynamicsCon annual in-person conference, as well as the virtual event, and I'll talk a little bit about that as well. We are going to be having and hosting some regional meetups. These are a little bit larger in scope. They're full day free events, and we are hosting several this year. The next one will be in Philadelphia in March, Then we're going to go to Europe, Canada. We'll be in West Africa and East Africa. We're going to be in Colorado, Ohio, and Texas this year. So more details to come on that. But the large annual conference is DynamicsCon. We are looking forward to hosting around 3,000 of our Doug community members at this event. And I am very excited to announce, this is hot off the presses, we are offering a free pass to DynamicsCon to any one of our Doug Meetup members. So this does expire on the February 28th. And I can drop that meeting, or I can drop that promo code in the chat for all of you. If you're able to join us in Chicago, we would love to have you there. And also just late last week, we announced, and the majority of almost everybody of the accepted sessions and speakers. So you can see that out on the website at dynamicscon.com. So with that, I will turn it back over to Mark so we can hear all about the wonderful subject matter topic for today.
Thanks, Liz. I'm going to also just kind of, DynamicsCon, I will definitely be there. And definitely, if those of you here in local who may make the trip up Chicago, it's not too far of a drive for us here in central Indiana, about 2.5 hours, but we'd love to meet up as a Indiana community at DynamicsCon. So I hope you'll take Liz up on her offer, and we'll see you in Chicago. All right, let me. Okay.
Oh no, we lost him. He must have hit leave instead of share. Hopefully he will be back on very, very soon. Where are all of you located? Are you all in Indiana, or do we have some non-Indiana Indianians?
Lisa, I'm in Michigan.
Nice. Not too far away.
I'm here.
Jesse, how about you?
I'm in Speedway. On the west side of Indianapolis.
Nice. Mark, we lost you there for a second, so I was just asking everybody where they were located, if anybody was outside of Indiana.
Hello, I'm from Jordan.
From where?
From Jordan, besides Saudi Arabia.
Oh, wow. Welcome. All the way across the world. That's fantastic.
Yes.
All right. It says I'm sharing, but I'm not seeing it share.
I can see your agenda slide in not in presenter mode though. In PowerPoint.
Yes. All right. Yes. All right.
Perfect.
Let me. I will. All right. There we go. All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining here. Just a quick agenda day here. I've got a brief presentation here for you today, and then we're going to talk about some of the stuff going on in Indiana, and we'll wrap up talking about the next meeting. So without further ado, I'll get into today's topic here. I titled this one "Little Changes That Provide Big Value." A lot of these topics are around procurement, but they could be both AP or AR, depending on how you're depending on some of these, depending on how you're using some of this stuff. I thought that these are little things. At this time of the year, I just feel like you get to the end of the year and people talk about within their business how I wish that they're spending time doing these little things that maybe they could be, I don't want to say automate's the right thing, but could be more automated in the sense that, yeah, they could be applied at the time of it. So just some different things to think about. I'm going to go through the topics and then maybe we'll take a look in the environment and how those are set up and where you find some of those things. And I'll share this slide deck with you. I've put some notes on here of places you can go to find more information on the topics that we'll talk about today. So I started with auto charges. I feel like a lot of times when we get setting up stuff, and again, you could use auto charges on both the AP and the AR side. A lot of times we don't think about them and someone's going in and doing that extra step. But again, it's something that may not take that much time to apply a charge of nature. But if you know it's happening, it doesn't take that long to set it up. Again, I gave the example here of if you have a product that requires refrigeration, you know that service when they deliver it to you is always going to need to be in some type of cold storage containment, and you're getting a standard charge there again here. Maybe that's always on that particular vendor or item groups of your ordering here. Again, something that you could be, we'll say, semi-automated here as far as the charges go. Does anybody use auto charges? Out there?
We don't use auto charges, but we have a shipping program that will put a charge onto a. We're doing it on sales orders and rather than purchase orders, but that we bring the charges back and put that on as a charge. It kind of acts like an auto charge, but it's done by a separate program.
But I get what you're saying. Again, there's another thing to think about, right, as you consider these things, right? Again, maybe it's already baked into your shipping provider. As you say, you're having to use refrigerated trailers or whatever, and that just comes in on there, so it's happening per se. But when you talk about charges, again, the hierarchy there, you can be at the specific item level, the lowest level. You can do it at the customer vendor level, or you could do it at group level. I find that a lot of times I like to try to do it specifically at the vendor level if possible. Specific items we're purchasing. Again, if I can associate it to a vendor, I know it's a repeating charge. I get that's great, right? It's hard to do charges at a group level. I guess from a sales order perspective, maybe it's a charge that you always charge somebody. It might be more effective to do it at a group level. And we'll take a look here at how we set those up. It's not, again, I don't want to say it's not hard. It's just one of those things that takes time to make sure and getting guidance from internally from how you want to handle things. I've included some links here. If after we're done here, you want to just dig in and learn more about how to set them up. Again, auto charges are not, you probably have some type of charges set up already. Typically you set up for freight and freight charges of some type to do it manually, at least that you might need to apply the things. But just a couple more clicks and we'll demo that here in a little bit. You can make them auto charges. Oh, yes. Let me go back. Come on. We will get there. This one came up for me particularly because I feel like I run this a lot of times here. A lot of times I think we set items up as stocked items or non-stocked items, and we go one way or the other, and we don't always think about how we're tracking it. And the question comes back to an expense side of things. And then if we do decide we want to expense it, then maybe we choose, I gave an example here of a non-stock. Maybe we have a case of 100 latex gloves. Maybe it's not that there's a dollar threshold is driving your expense level. So how do you choose to do that? Would you use a non-stock item or a procurement category per se to drive it? Was the thinking here when I thought about this topic. So right, procurement categories. So if we, again, it's like a stock item. If we want to track it, we're going to track it as a stocked item and make it an item model group of stocked. Has anybody ever tried to the stocked item, tried to make it a two-way match? So you don't have to expense it? And do you know what happens if you do that? So the rub there is, right, it makes it look so easy to find. We could change a stocked item, which is driven by an item, marked as a stocked item, to a two-way match, but DUCY, because it is a stocked item, will require you to do a receipt even if you don't really want to expense it. So if you're looking to get away from having to do that receiving process, or that's where it makes sense to make items non-stocked, creating a non-stocked model group and making them non-stocked items. Again, we could do a procurement category here, so we could expense those items, right? And not have to deal with that. But for maybe, again, if it's something you purchase in high volume, so I use the example again of the latex gloves, I know I'm going to be ordering them in small, medium, large, XL. I probably maybe have a trade agreement driving it behind the scenes. Well, now if I want to bring trade agreements into the conversation, I can't do that with procurement categories. So again, just depends on how you want to treat it as a company as a whole. But taking the time to have both stocked and non-stocked item model groups and having stocked and non-stocked sometimes makes sense rather than just relying on procurement categories to cover your expenses. And again, can help save some time downstream again from making sure that pricing, if you're trying to apply trade agreements, is happening, so you're not having to do as many adjustments later on. That's where I was kind of going with it being a time-saving practice here, to take the time rather than just relying and saying, okay, I'm going to have stocked items and procurement categories. Having non-stocked items can add value there if you aren't using them. Has anyone used the netting feature that came out last year? I say last year, was in, as we know, features go through, but officially, it's now officially released. It's not just a feature. It's actually enabled and available. Great. So I really like this one here, depending on how you're doing stuff. But again, if you have some type of agreement here, but where you're as a customer vendor agreement, you used to have to go in and create, if you wanted to offset, you would go in and create a general journal. But this is a pretty robust setup that's now been created by Microsoft, where you can create both on the AR and AP side, you could create netting agreements so that your POs and SS can be offset by each other, so you don't have to go through that extra step of having to do an additional journal entry. On top of that, again here, little tiny print here, but once you set up that agreement, you can do it manually, but you can make it an automated task. So again, if you know you're just doing it in a month, you can say at the end of the month, I want it to just run that and do that netting for me automatically, or run through that process, or however often you want it. There is out of the box, there's a history page. There's a report that you can run for finance departments, someone needs to have a report of, see the netting details on a monthly basis there. There's even a netting advice report that can be run to, again, share more details for people. So it's a pretty nice little feature that they've added there. Again, depending on what you're doing here, it also works intercompany. So again, where you're using, if you're again a multiple entity, it will work there as well. It's not just for a standalone entity. So I'm going to try to switch over and not bore you as much with me talking and see if I can go into a test environment here and share a few of these things and take a look at them. Let me. There we go. So we were talking at the beginning here about auto charges, and again, you can set them up from AP or AR, but we'll look at it from a AP side. Procurement and sourcing charges start with your parameters. Probably by default they're always set on, but you would want to check and make sure that you do have auto charges enabled. Non-production environments are never as fast as you want them to be, right? Under pricing, you'll see here, again, here, there are a couple of settings here to find the auto charges at the line level and the header level. I believe those are on by default, but don't hold me to that statement. As long as you have those turned on, then everything kind of then flows downstream from there. Under setup, you'll find a nice little section on charges. You'll need to establish charge codes if you haven't already. Again, you probably have one out there for freight. I'm going to guess. I just put one out here called test auto charge. You do need to define, again, how that posting effect is going to happen with these charges. And from there, again, same area here. Again, we talked about the hierarchy going on with, if you're wanting to do by group, you would set up, you can set up item charge groups or vendor charge groups inside of there as well. And then last but not least, you actually get to the actual establishing of the charge codes. I set a couple of auto charges up just as examples here. And again, nothing rocket science here, but the first one here, I simply did it off I didn't even have to even really set up a group here. If I was just doing it by a vendor, I could pick a particular vendor and then I can establish via my charge code that I had what that charge is. Or again here on the second example here, I used a group and said, if I'm going to click new here, but you can do it by table, group, or all. So again, if it's something you know you need to charge everybody. So if you were doing this from an AR perspective and you were going to charge every customer a certain dollar amount for something when you're invoicing them, you could set that up to all here. Again, there's some additional information. I will share that how to set these up for AR and AP. But any questions about auto charges? They're really easy to set up. And I say here, sometimes you just don't think about it, but if there's something that you know that a particular vendor is always charging you for, you can get granular and sign it in by the vendor relationship or again to a specific item group if you know it's a specific set of products. All right, you're all being quiet, so I'll continue on here. I get really kind of excited when I talk about this one here, but the netting feature is the other one I kind of wanted to highlight. I just want to show again here, you can set up netting under AP. It's under the payment section. There's a netting, but I could also set it up for under the AR as well. It also lives there as well. So I talked about there, basically you come in and you create a netting agreement between a customer record and a vendor record. And how do you want, again, the journal and how it's going to post that. It's say in essence, it's doing that journal that I talked about manually you would have to do prior to this being available. The top here, I can see a netting overview and I can see any existing transactions I have going on here right now. Again, depending on where you're at, I've got, it looks like I'm a little bit between the two out of balance there. I talked about, again, automated netting, again, allows me to come in and establish a netting rule and to say what day I want it to do it, and it'll run that process. And it'll basically look and see, do I have it's looking for a sales order invoice and a vendor invoice that's going to be the same dollar amount and apply them to each other, is what it's doing here by setting up this automatic netting rule. I'm going to go here to customer netting balance. And I will say I want to create a netting. And I've got a couple of sales invoices here. And I can see I got a couple POs, and I can see that I do have indeed two that match. I have to mark them. Come on. And now I've marked both of them. And at the top here, I just simply need to give a date. What date do I want that? So again, I can control date on here when I want that to happen. Fine with today's date. And I would say post, and it's going to post that just like it would any other journal, but it's just going to give me a nice clean view here and show me the invoices and for both the say AP and AR side of it to make it very easy to reconcile those type of situations. So if you've got, in particular, if your particular situation is that you've got multiple companies or entities that you're wanting to offset, and you don't want to obviously even have to, you're just wanting to like transfer and offset those invoices without having to issue payments. You can come in and do this really nice, makes it super easy for your accounting department to do these type of netting on a monthly basis. Like I say, once you're really comfortable with it, you can even make it automated. So a day's come in and print a report and verify that, so they can verify what happens. Like I say, the one thing I've seen over time is that if you happen to get back to charges, you happen to have an extra freight charge or something that so the dollar amounts don't tie out, it won't, if dollar amounts don't tie out, it's not going to automatically settle those for you. Any questions about netting or anything we talked about here?
When you try to set it up to automatically net, is it going to try to find ones that match dollar wise, or is it
exactly
what does it do there?
Exactly. It's not looking at date, it's looking at dollar. So again, if it finds for that, since it ran last, if it can find dollar amounts that match up, it will net them out.
And then if it doesn't find them, does it do nothing, or does it just?
It'll do nothing, which is why I say our finance department will come and run a report to make sure that, and to see that they'll come in here and check to make sure they don't see anything out here. But
Because if you did it manually, you could have marked invoice 37 instead of 40, and you just would have had a net remaining on that customer invoice, right?
Correct. Exactly. That's going to be it. Exactly. You could do this manually through the GL. This is setting this up. If you know this is happening on a regular basis, it just makes a nice, easy way that they don't have to come in and do those steps, right? It'll net it out. But you're right, they have to tie out dollar-wise. So again, depending on your scenario, but for us, it works out really well because typically, say most of ours do. I won't say there's never, but I would say in the past 6 months, I've only seen like 1 month I know where they had one that was off, and there happened to be an additional freight charge for, I forget what, that got charged on it that they weren't expecting, which threw off the one side of the invoicing. This is going to happen, but we have them on quite a regular basis. We have multiple customer vendor relationships with 3 or 4 people who have anywhere from at least 2 to 3 a month up to 6 or 7 invoices. So it just makes this process much more streamlined. My last question would be for folks, does anybody have any things out there that they think are kind of handy tips that maybe help save people a couple of keystrokes? Like I say, I will I will happily share the slide out there, and the link has links on all these things we talked about, including the netting and the account codes, and again, just also a good information link on the things to consider when you talk about procurement categories, stocked and non-stocked items.
Can I ask you? It's kind of I guess a thought question about inventory to non-inventory. There's 2 pieces in 365 and back in AX 2012, and is it inventoried or not inventoried, and then is it a regular item or a service item?
Yeah.
Do you utilize both service and as well as inventoried items that are service items, which you kind of have to do that for outside service? But what are your thought process on using that?
I've used service items more in the past than where I'm presently at. It doesn't fit where I'm at right now, but to your point, again, right, depends on your volume, right, of how much you're doing. I mean, where I'm at now, we typically just handle the services through a procurement category, I guess, again, because we're just treating it as an expense. We're kind of going to rabbit hole, right? Is that service item related? Well, I guess it wouldn't be related per se to a project, but depends on what your business is doing too, right? But I always think if you've got enough, if it makes sense in your, it's not just a random one vendor who's doing service. It probably makes sense to have service items if there's regular things that you're doing on a regular basis. It's probably going to benefit you from how D365 is going to help manage it, and perhaps have reports or things out of the box to help you manage those type of transactions from a warehousing standpoint. I'm thinking of, like, if I had a lot of machinery, I know I'm having regular service done on them and stuff, and specific vendors, I'd probably want to treat them as service items.
Mark and Joel, I'm kind of late to the discussion. I'm sorry, but are you purely talking from the vendor perspective or also from the customer perspective? Because as an example, we use a lot of service items for our options on our machines, and software is what we're using it for. So, or we have service guys that actually service machines, so they record like hours as a service item, hours worked on a machine. So I don't know if that's something that can be done differently, but or if this is totally off base, tell me, because I'm a late.
No, I think it's I really what started this for me is that Mark was discussing using inventoried versus non-inventoried items. But at the same time, we also have regular items versus service items. And there's really, and you can have regular items that are inventoried or not inventoried, and you can have service items that are inventoried or not inventoried. And so there's some very interesting behavior of that. I would guess for doing what you're talking about, for doing a sales of a service, you probably have it set up as a service item in an item group that's not model group that's not inventoried.
Correct.
And so that would make sense for what you're doing there. And so the having a service item that is inventoried is necessary when you're putting it on, say, a bill of material. That's not the only time, but and maybe there's some, I haven't done much with projects. There may be some purpose that you might have with that. But I'm just kind of curious from Mark's point of view, what he's seen, maybe what anyone else has seen as far as using different combinations of those things. The common one is as a service item that is inventoried, has to do with outside or subcontracted services. That's the common use of that weird combination.
Okay. I mean, I would argue there's also like bags of screws. We don't really inventory those, but we keep, you know, that's really not we don't keep track of that or count those on hand. We just have screws, bolts, you know, those set up as well.
Right.
But there's still.
You have them set up as what? As non-inventoried regular items?
Correct.
Right. That's what I would do with it, is because again, I probably have a vendor who's supplying to me at a certain cost, and I just want to make sure they come across at the cost expected, right? So I'd probably treat them as a non-stocked, and maybe I do have a price established for them, right? To make sure from a costing. But yeah, I would treat them as that, like you're saying, as a non-stock item.
I mean, we buy a bag of 10,000 screws or bolts or whatever, and we don't want to keep track of that. We don't want to count those. On the other hand, oh my God! And you're talking. You got to remember, Joel. You're talking to the IT guy here, by the way. so I could look it up real quick how we have it set up, but I do remember this. It's not. It's like I call it half and half. So it's still, you still use it on a bill of material, but you don't inventory that, you don't count it or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Yeah. I mean, it really does come down to a personal choice, right? I mean, at the end of the day here, it's, and I guess the answer really to your question is no, I'm not, I don't really think about that far deep. I mean, I would be intrigued personally to go to it from my thinking that if I had service items, I'm guessing again in my mind there's going to be some benefits to treating them as service items, and I'm going to get some additional functionality out of D365 that would probably be advantageous, but I'm making some assumptions there. Where is? Oh, come on. I'm checking. All right. Are you seeing? Okay. It looks like I've got my slide deck back here. I'm going to leave it. Anything else that anybody would like to bring up as a topic? I'll move on to the next topic, as it were. So I'll get this out here, but excited. So we we do have a calendar for this year, and our next meeting will be Thursday, February 27th. I just put it out there this morning on the Meetup site. I'll get more info out there. It'll be at TCC Round Room in Fishers. So I'm open if you have any thoughts or things you'd like to see on the agenda or a topic you'd like to see at a meeting, let me know. Haven't finalized the sessions here, but the meeting will be 11 to 1:30, and we'll try to probably have lunch there and have a couple of sessions. And again, we try to meet, for those of you who aren't aware, we try to meet at least in person quarterly. And we rotate around where we're having those events throughout the state here. I know I'm working to usually try to have one up in the Fort Wayne area. If you're willing to host a meeting, I'd love for you to reach out to me, and we'd love to. I think people like, in general, it's kind of neat to see how other people are doing, if that's okay, or if you can do it. Love having tours of places, but I realize that always isn't per se manageable or doable. But it's nice to have them at on-site places. If you're willing to host one, we'd happy to work that out with you. Now a lot on your part. We'll take care of the legwork here and figure out refreshments and or lunch or things like that. We just need a willingness and a place that you're willing to open your doors and let us come in for today. One of the things I guess I wanted to talk about here, and I just started this last year, and I don't know if it kind of had some interest, but I kind of also got a little torn away here. I know we typically try to have, say, either an online meeting like this here once a month or an in-person meeting, but would there be any interest in perhaps trying to have some more focused, shorter monthly meetups? Maybe it's on, I say, a specific areas. Today was procurement, but maybe there's an interest in having like a warehouse Friday, advanced warehouse Friday, or a power platform Tuesday or something. We'd figure it out. If that kind of makes sense what I'm asking. Is there any interest in trying to have some smaller sized groups that, say, I would envision this maybe being a shorter time block, and we could do them in person or after work, or we could figure out how those work out. But I'm just curious from the community if there's any interest in trying to establish some of those. Well, think about it.
I mean, for me, I like the shorter meetings, the targeted, but that's because so busy, you know what I mean?
Is there a specific, I mean, we'll have different hats. Is there a specific, would you rather just be sort of open, whereas just D365 open, or would you rather be, let's say, advanced warehousing or something more focused?
Well, advanced warehousing would be wonderful, because I'm really struggling right now. So that's
in there. You know, I feel that anything, maybe I feel like at least helps maybe at least break it in like F&O, or its finance side, or its warehouse side. Maybe like that would at least be a little more helpful, I think. I get that even on short meetings, if it's not something I'm kind of focused on, it's easy to lose or not have an interest in. But maybe we can start establishing, say, an advanced warehouse. I don't know if people feel. I never like having meetings on Mondays, because Mondays are Mondays, and I always feel like Friday's hard too, because just people's lives, and you may be already on the weekend. So I like trying to keep them somewhere on a Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. But maybe we have a advanced warehouse Tuesday, just a shorter 30-minute online monthly. And maybe I do one for do one for finance too on the opposite week or something. Once a month. as well.
Sounds like a plan to me.
All right, we'll see if we can't get those out there also, and we'll get them on the calendar. We'll give it a try here for February and see where that goes. If you have any ideas, please don't hesitate. Email me here if you have a topic or something you think you're doing that you think others would find interest in, or you're willing to share some insights. We love having users present sessions here at our meetings. So we'd love to hear from you. And again, no pressure. Again, just because you email me doesn't mean I'm going to say, oh, you got to do this next month. We'll figure out when it works for you. But we'll always appreciate having users willing to step up and present. And with that, I will say thank you for attending the first meeting this week. I'll give you a few minutes back. Welcome to hang out if you have some other additional questions or things you want to ask, but that's what I've got for today.
Thank you, Mark.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Mark.
everyone. Hope
Thank
they
you,
see
Mark.
in person.
Thank you, Liz.
February. Thank you. Or join us online if you're, I forget the one person, I think you were in Jordan.
Hey.
Hey, Mark, real quick, where's the best place to look for all of the user group meets?
So I am going to tell you, Doug, Meetup is going to have all of Doug's.
Okay.
I don't know how you signed up. Did you? Now Microsoft has gotten really back involved this year. They got a new person in charge of the community here at the end of the year, and she's doing a great job, and they're becoming more active again.
Yeah.
And I'm still posting out there. In fact, they actually are making people post, and they're now like getting rid of groups. They did a first round of cleanup. If you don't put a meeting out there on the Microsoft community site, every 3 months they're going to basically eliminate you off of the site. So they'll get rid of some of those groups that don't really exist anymore.
Okay. Because yeah, I think I've looked always on the D365 community site. I just didn't know if there was a better place, and sometimes I have a hard time finding like which ones are still active because it's got a bunch of old events out there.
Exactly. And you know, I've talked to Microsoft about that. They're trying to help us because cleaning it up. When you go look at it, it's so horrible. Like it lists all my events out there that I've ever posted, and like some of them are so old, like, well, it's a pain to like try to scroll through it. They're trying to get the site enhanced and make it better. So I do feel like Microsoft is trying to once again be more enrolled. They've got a couple of really good champions who I think are making some good progress and making Microsoft resources available. So I'm not going to knock it. Hey, Dynamics Communities, who used to host Summit, who used to be the go-to for the user group community, they now are giving away free memberships too, just so you know. And they still have a community forum out there too, but they don't have user groups.
Okay.
But it's a good place as a resource. I still think they're a good resource because a lot of people reply to things on the forums out there. But again, you asked from a user group perspective, so I would focus on looking at. I have a love-hate of. I appreciate Meetup because it's easy to post out there, but you can't do a lot more with the Meetup, right, than post the meeting info.
Okay. So like you said, you had put the February 27th meeting out there. So that's on that's on Meetup. Is that right?
It's on Meetup, and I will